It's Supernal Magazine Australia radio time, and we're starting off with a bit of a giggle already. My regular co-host, Shirley-Sienna, is online. How are you, Shirley?
I'm well, thank you, Anthony. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just drying out a little bit. We had a lot of rain in Melbourne this weekend. And
with big spurts of sunshine, though. Did you have the sunshine?
Anthony's
in one direction. Oh, we've had a couple of gorgeous bits
Okay.
of it come out as well. It's been interesting.
We had little bits and pieces, but we registered over 50 mil in the gauge just overnight from Saturday night. So it's gone a long way to topping up my water tanks, I can tell you that much. So that's a good thing. So we're also waiting for Freya to join us. And and in the meantime, though, we're going to introduce Damian Donoghue, who's playing with his screen, and it's going nuts on us, David.
I think that's a good energy thing. Like, this is something happening to show that energy.
Can you see my new moves that I've got?
Yeah, well, it was reminding me of that song that came out probably back in the 80s, where the guy's head's jumping around. What was the name of it? It's
Max Headroom, not him.
Yeah, from Max Headroom. Yeah, so there you go. So welcome to Supernal Radio, Damon. It's great to have you on, and you've got a lovely background there with all the trees and the plants, which is absolutely perfect for what we're talking about. So
Queensland? You in Queensland?
WA.
I wasn't sure where you were.
Yeah.
I think, okay.
Yeah, so we got a bit of sun. So thank you, Anthony. Thanks for having me today. Thank you, Shirley.
Pleasure.
That's brilliant. So we're, as part of the current issue that's out, we're talking about averting the Atlantean or an Atlantean disaster. So we're talking about a lot of the things that are being done around the planet that are actually harming this planet, and all in the name of greed and passion and power and all these sorts of things, which governments seem to have just absolutely destroying this planet at the moment.
They're at their peak.
Yeah.
Well done.
Top of that pyramid, yeah. So in the next issue that we're working on currently, we're looking at finding some sort of utopia and trying to discover the things and the ways that people can actually take on board and do for themselves to help them find their utopia, which will then spread out, hopefully, into all sorts of people's lives, and sort of do something positive for themselves, which will then in turn do something positive for other people and for the planet itself. And so so when Freya gave me a little glimpse of your story, I thought, wow, we've got to get you on and having a chat with us. So give us the rundown on the Damian story, because the little bit that I've heard is pretty amazing. So take it away.
Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, so my health journey began about 23 years ago, and I was suffering with chronic fatigue, and I just basically hit a wall where it was like, this can't be it. This can't be life. You know, it can't just stop here and it can't decline here. And so I set out on a journey to find some answers. And, you know, we didn't have the internet very strong back then. It was all dial up. It took forever to get information. And I had to sift through a lot of info, and it took a long time, but I got there. And what I realized was, you know, I was eating all the wrong things. I was drinking the wrong things. I was thinking the wrong things. I was doing all the wrong things, you know, living the wrong thing. And so what I really learned was, you know, nutrition was such an important thing for our health and well-being, and detoxing our body of chemicals and all the rubbish, so important. And so I went on this journey of detoxing, healing, flooding my body full of nutrition through superfoods and tonic herbs, and I turned it all around and then regained my vitality. It took me about 8 years, but then I set out on a quest to help others get through the journey like my own, because I met so many people that were suffering with ill health, and I just wanted to know, like, surely I can empower others. So that was my quest from there on. And I began manufacturing superfood products, so powdered products for boosting your immunity and your energy and assisting weight loss and all those things that we desire, and started manufacturing my own products because the stuff that was available in health stores was such poor quality and so much synthetic rubbish. And so I just set out to create my own. I thought I've got to get something that I can use. And so I created my own range of products and started spreading the message from there. And along with nutrition comes everything, right? I'm all about lifestyle. And that's where I got into researching forest bathing, you know, the term forest bathing that we hear about. Do I delve into forest bathing now? Would you
Yes,
like?
please. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I
I
don't
mean-
really having heard about it.
Yeah, okay, cool. So it was early 1980s. The Japanese, the people of Japan, were looking at their busy businessmen, you know, and I say businessmen because maybe back then it was a little bit more men orientated. But what they're finding is these business people were highly stressed in this tech world, high tech world. And so they spent a whole heap of time researching nature and the effects of spending time in nature. And this is where this forest bathing come from, which in Japan, it's pronounced, if I get this right, Shinrin-yoku. Shinrin-yoku. And Shinrin-yoku is the practice of going out in nature, shutting out from the outside world, turning these horrible things off, our devices, and getting out and breathing the fresh air and connecting to nature again. And what they observe, the Japanese prove this, they observed some pretty profound changes in people's biology after spending time in nature. Now, one of the first things they noticed was stress hormones went down. So your cortisol went down, the stress levels in your body dropped down, the confusion went away, the anxiety, the depression melted away when you got out in nature. And which was fascinating, right? It's like, well, how can all this happen? We're all taking drugs and medicines to try and achieve this, but just getting out in nature can do that, you know, which is profound. And so what they found was when you spent a day in nature, you boosted your white blood cells, your natural killer cells, the cells that attack cancer. You boosted your white blood cells drastically by spending a day in nature. And what they observed was you could hold the effects of that nature experience for the next 30 days. If you spent time in nature for one day, just think one day a month, you can lower your stress, lower your depression, melt away the anxiety, clear up that confusion, and boost your natural killer cells, your immune system. I mean, how awesome is that, right? Fascinating.
Amazing. So it's great, Freya, that you're able to join us, even though we've managed to start the podcast moving. How are you?
Fabulous, thank you. Supernal even.
Supernal. Oh, it's good to see you. It's been a while, and I know you've been very busy over the last month or so. So we'll come back and have a bit more of a chat a bit later in the interview. But Shirley's got a really deep and meaningful question for Damian, because we're just catching up on Damian's story. Go, Shirley.
Well, it was just a question. We were talking about spending the days out in nature, the forest what?
Forest bathing.
I can't remember anything. Forest bathing.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't actually heard of the term.
Yeah.
So, and you've explained how, you know, spending maybe that one day out there will do the immune boost and all these things, which we sort of know on a level. How seriously people look at that is another thing, or how much. But when you mentioned it will give them a lasting effect for up to a certain period of time, that's a special key that they get. Oh God, if I do that, I'll do that. You're giving some good keys that are easy and able to do. But I want to know. Now I've forgotten what my question was. Does it help your memory banks? But so when you talk about being out in nature, could you be a little bit more specific about the sort of thing to bring these things into fruition, to have the immunity boost, to have this lasting effect? Because we can all go out into nature.
Yes.
I feel like some more specifics are required for people to understand.
Yes. Okay.
And put themselves into it.
Yes. So following on from what we were talking about before, the Japanese have found that you go out there and you have these profound changes, and like you say, a lasting effect for up to 30 days. But one other thing they observe, right? It wasn't you just going out into a forest, right? If you were sitting in the city and you had a window that overlooked a park and you regularly gazed out into that park and took the time to put yourself in that park, you had those changes, right? You
like
may not
mentally, emotionally put yourself by viewing, went into it in that way.
Just
Yeah,
sitting out there and just going, look at that beautiful park and those trees,
it becomes your reality.
and feeling into the peace of those trees that I'm looking at right now. Is just like, wow. And what they observed was you still had some of those changes, those beneficial changes from just connecting your eyes and looking out into nature. So spending time deep in a forest is profound. But if you're a busy person that's living in the city, just going out and on your lunch break, spending time in a park, you know, and just tuning out all the cars and just tune into the bird sounds, the bees buzzing past, you know, that can still give you those profound results.
And that's the key, because it's the focus. It's not just, oh, I'll go out there and then I can do all my phone work out there and sit on the phone and do because I'm sitting out there, so it's doing it. I don't have to participate. The difference is to sit there and allow yourself to become one with it, to focus. It's a meditation. So everything else can go aside and you can just sit there and take it in, to notice the bees, to notice the leaves, the trees, the blossoms, to notice everything, because people don't notice things.
That's right. Yeah.
The most amazing things is just looking at the leaves on a tree.
Well, I
And
think
people miss so much, or the tree spirit speaking to them, all of it, because they just sit there and their mind wanders. Have I done this? Where have I got to go? I'll do this. I am having time out, but they're not.
I think what
Because
Damian
it's in
said
here still.
before, the key thing was turn off your electronic devices.
Yeah, we're going to get there. We're going to get there in a minute.
Yeah, because that's super key. You know, I see people walking around here in the bush, and you know, they got their ears plugged in with stuff.
Oh, goodness.
And you just wonder, well, hang on, what bit are you actually listening to? Is it, you know? But anyway, no, keep going, Damian. It's cool.
So thinking of that concept alone, right? If you can look out the window next to you and see nature, how about we put a nature screensaver on our desktop? You know, like for the real challenged people who are deep in the city now and they can't see green anywhere, let's put it on your screen and take a minute to focus on nature, the sounds, maybe put your earphones in, hear the birds, hear the bees, you know. And that's just another idea of everyone can expose themselves to nature. Some of us at a much deeper level, but still those in those concrete walls can access this
virtual reality.
Yeah.
So put on your lunchtime glasses and go.
Yes. So let's delve into the science of forest bathing now, right? It's also known as forest therapy, forest bathing, or Shinrin-yoku in Japan. So the science of it now, let's walk out into nature, right? We're going for a journey into the forest. So the first thing I do is get everyone to turn off their devices. So we'll touch on the devices in a moment, all the horrible things about them, but we turn it off, we get out into nature and start breathing the fresh air. Now, I want you to all to think about what you can smell when you're in nature. Think of those scents, the fresh, uplifting scents, and think if you're in a forest, like with pine trees, pine needles, conifers, right? You're getting this uplifting scent in the air. So what I want to talk about now is fragrant molecules known as terpenes. These are molecules that hold scent, right? And they move around in our environment. Now, we're all into essential oils these days, right? So our essential oils are made up of what is known as terpenes.
Yes.
They're fragrant molecules from all types of plants. So the science of forest bathing is not only getting out into nature, it's getting in and being influenced by these fragrant molecules. Now, I want you to all to picture a lemon right now. If we were to picture a lemon in our hand and just get your nails on it and just give that scratch, a little bit of a scratch on the lemon and sniff. What do you smell?
Limonene.
Lemon peel.
Whoa, someone just dropped the bomb there, Freya. So Shirley, what do you smell?
Lemon peel, that strong, peely smell.
How would you describe the scent?
I would describe it as almost spiky. It spikes my senses. Lemon.
So would it be right to say it's fresh and uplifting?
Yes.
You know, you smell a lemon, it's like, whoa, it's fresh and uplifting.
It
Well,
clears
Freya said it right.
clears
It's
everything.
because of a certain terpene in the lemon known as limonene. Limonene's uplifting,
Limonene.
fresh. Yep. It's a terpene that's found throughout all different types of citrus, many different plants, very popular in cannabis as well, because this has an integral part of making cannabis medicine work is the terpenes. So understanding terpenes is so good, because if you can access those fragrant molecules, you can have even deeper, profound changes in nature. So we can bring that into the home with essential oils, right? But when you get out into nature, all those naturally occurring terpenes you're breathing in, you've got the limonene, you've got pinene, which is fresh and uplifting. You've got all of these natural substances moving through the air and affecting your body in positive ways, uplifting your cells, lightening your body, making you feel more alive. So breathing in the terpenes is one of the most important things of this experience. You know, a lot of people say to me, well, I'll just go to the beach. And I think beach is great because it is nature. But really what we're accessing in the forest is much deeper. It's not just getting in nature. It's accessing these terpenes, these fragrant molecules, right? We're also accessing more oxygen. So you're in the trees where all this oxygen is being made. We're getting it firsthand before any car fumes or anything's mixing with it. We're breathing in this beautiful, fresh oxygen and terpenes. And I believe that is one of the most profound things of nature, and what's affecting people in this way is the fragrant molecules are having a strong effect there, as well as the nature presence.
So that's another thing people in city offices could do whilst they're gazing at their beautiful forest screensaver. They could get some really good grade, therapeutic grade essential oils and at a diffuser, and put things like the lemon, pine, cedarwood, those kinds of ones that have the beautiful terpenes in them, and breathe them in. I'm aware through my work with essential oils that another thing you can do is put the oil on your hands, activate it by turning 3 times clockwise with your hands together, bringing the polarities together, and then you put it over your nose and you breathe in for 28 seconds. And that's how long it takes for the olfactory senses to really stimulate the endocrine system in the brain. And get a plant in your office, at least one.
That's right. And I totally agree. You've got access to it. And I think that's why essential oils have taken off so well in the last 10 years, because we're now accessing the fragrant molecules of nature. And like lemon or lavender, for instance, which has got the linalool, you know, linalool is the calming anti-anxiety terpene. I mean, you just have to smell lavender anywhere you are and you get that instant calming effect. And I think in a busy office, a little bit of limonene and pinene for the uplifting, but then some lavender to take off that edge is just this beautiful little mix. So that's what we're looking at is fragrant molecules. We've got oxygen. Now, also what's happening once we go out there? We're getting in nature, right? So I'm looking for a forest, I'm looking for a park, a tree, wherever I can get myself in nature. What's happening out there? Well, I'll tell you what's happening. It's calming your body in such a way you're going very much parasympathetic with your nervous system, right? You're going rest and digest. So we're waking up and we're go, 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 work all the time, phones, jobs, partners, kids, life, right? And we're all in fight or flight. So when you're in fight or flight, it shuts down your digestion and your immune system, right? So everyone's, you know, the last 2 years, we've all worried about immune systems, but no one's talking about getting us out of fight or flight, you know, so it's getting us back into rest and digest. And that's what's happening. When you're in nature, you go parasympathetic straight away. You go back to rest and digest.
Well, some people were talking about getting us into rest and digest, weren't we, guys?
Yeah.
Perhaps not the media or other bodies,
that's
certainly people on the ground, we were.
And when I say nobody's talking about it, I'm referring to the mass, the mainstream.
Absolutely.
All of us guys are whispering it to each other, We need a megaphone right now, right?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not a
we're-
conspiracy.
It's not. Well, you know, I live in the bush, so I've got access to lots of little birds. We've created an environment to bring all the birds from down at the Kunzia, which is down at the front of our place, up around the house. So we're now waking up with all these little birds twerking and carrying on. It's just beautiful to hear.
Yep.
Where I live is on a dirt road, and on more than one occasion, I've seen some people walking down that road with a mask on. And
I've seen them walking on the beach with a mask on.
exactly.
Oh.
And no, this is fair income. I don't make this stuff up. You couldn't, you know, you'd get.
I don't think you could make that up.
No, it's too stupid, isn't it?
You know, we do and have seen people walking around the streets here in my area with masks on. And I've been trying to say to people, whenever you're wearing a mask, all you're doing is breathing in your own carbon dioxide. And it's going to make you sicker in the long run because it will kill your immune system.
Yes.
And everything you're saying is explaining to people that, you know, get into nature by get rid of the mask, get rid of the electronic frequency stuff, get rid of everything else and just go in there and open
without a mask. Get rid of your phone and your mask.
Yeah, that's right.
And your negative attitude. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And just get into smelling, even tasting, because we grow a lot of our own fruit and stuff like that. So we're actually quite often tasting stuff straight off the tree and things like that. So it's getting people into that space.
Get rid of the fear.
The fear, absolutely.
Got to do that first. They'll be too scared to turn off their phone, too scared to take off their mask. Because actually, you know, we're laughing and joking, but to be like that, you must have a lot of fear about everything going on to do that to yourself. So release yourself from fear, then you can turn off your phone because it's safe. You can take your mask off because it's safe. Nature is safe. It is there for you. It is not threatening, because it can feel very overwhelming, especially where you go. If you go somewhere very into a forest and you're not used to anything like that at all, and you're also in fear about things, very overwhelming. So letting go of fear, just letting go, getting to that process before you can even go in and start the other things.
Yes.
Exactly. Freya, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah. So one of the things I was thinking, coming back to the actual forest aspect of things, you're talking about the smells in the forest. And one of the things, because I've lived in the Daintree rainforest, and that was just the most incredible experience. And what I loved about it was not only could you smell the freshness, but you could actually smell the underlying process of decay that is ongoing. So there's this thing that people do in their brains, which is like, you know, life is so tricky. I just want all sunshine, like sunshine and rainbows, all up the high point smells. But actually, you know, we can't escape the wholeness of life. So we need that decay process as well. And I find one of the smells that really grabs me in the forest too is the humus that's going on underneath the trees. Is there like terpenes or something that comes from that's important for us that you know of?
I don't know for sure, but there would have to be, you know, because you can smell that, and it's that grounding earthy, right? It's the grounding earthy smell. And I totally agree with you, Freya. Yeah, it's very distinct, and it's a mixture of that composting, decaying matter under you and the fresh live substance above, you know, that brings it all together, right?
Well, it's completing a cycle.
Yes.
Living earth, isn't it?
That continual, you know, when we go bush, I rely on my sense of smell as much as anything else, because you need to, like, it might sound weird, but whenever I've smelled a certain smell around the house, I know there's a snake there.
Yeah.
So I tend to take it very carefully in that space while I work out where it is. And then, you know, I let it go on its way. It's what it is. But that fear that we were talking about, Shirley, that you were mentioning too, a lot of people actually are scared of walking around in the bush in Australia because everything's going to kill them and eat them. Now, I've never seen a snake kill a person that hasn't done something wrong. And I've certainly never seen a snake eat anyone here in Australia.
No, not as yet. Me either.
It's the drop bears you got to look for.
Yeah, they're the cheeky ones, those drop bears.
Yeah.
So, you know, but there are people that are quite fearful of that.
Yeah.
And again, it
You
comes
grew
back.
up with it. Careful. Don't step on a snake. Don't step on a snake. Don't step on a snake. Careful, careful.
Yeah, and you just
We
got
grew up with fear embedded.
Exactly. And I mean, most snakes won't do anything unless you try to harm them in the first place. And that means you either step on them or, you know, I walked out my studio door just behind me and there was this beautiful little tiger snake there. It was only about maybe 1.5 feet long and it had a frog in its mouth. And it was just, and so what I found amazing, because obviously I was fairly close to this before I realized what was there and I had my arms full, but his mouth, the inside of the snake's mouth was green. And whether that was a reflection of the sun off the frog or whatever, I'm not sure. But it was just really fascinating to see it. And I, you know, I'm always wary, but they are beautiful creatures, like most of the creatures we have here. I mean, I still jump at spiders sometimes when they come out, you know.
Yeah.
But well, I have
know,
2 snakes, 2 pet snakes.
You do?
I do, Kundalini and Sebastian. And I would say, you know, they're both extremely loving. It's just that snakes rely on their sense of smell and their auditory sense. They don't see. It's all like blurred, like the back of our screens, Shirley. And so they just, you know, feel with their tongue heat signatures and feel the movement of things. Yeah. So, you know, like anyone, if you're having a nap in the sun and somebody comes crashing in on top of you, you know, when they're not present and grounded or aware of their surroundings, then you're probably going to jump with fright, and maybe even, depending on your personality, you'll either fight or flight. So they're the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're just beautiful
it's a reaction. We're actually creating the action that they react to.
Exactly. Stay calm, enjoy the space, less hassle.
Back to forest bathing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the moral of the story is get that mask off and breathe fresh air, right? That's what we're talking about, because oxygen boosts your immune system. And like you said, Anthony, if you're blocking that oxygen and breathing in carbon dioxide, and that's causing stress, right? And so that's where nature therapy is so important, getting us out there. So let's look at terpenes used in a negative way in our everyday, just to bring some light on that. So you walk into a room, say you've just done a talk and you've got this group of people there, and then everyone leaves the room and you start packing up, and you can still smell the people, the perfume, you know? Especially women. Unfortunately, they are the biggest offenders, but there's plenty of guys too that come in saturated in cologne. And I used to be one of them. I used to love my little squirt on my shirt when I stopped putting it on my skin. But then I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, these are the fragrant molecules that you're studying. These are the ones that are made in the lab, the ones that are going to go in and absorb into your body, get into your brain. The neurotoxins, they're going to disturb all your chemistry, because we're breathing in these artificial fragrant molecules, you know.
And what's worse is most of those perfumes that people are buying and wearing, not only are they poisoning them, but there are countless animals that have been subjected to cruelty in order to create them in the first place.
One of the biggest horrors on this planet, I think, is animal
vivisection. It's disgusting.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's just to bring a bit of perspective there of what the synthetic fragrant molecules are doing in our life. Because you get it with all your washing. You know, whenever I bump into someone and give them a hug, I smell their clothes wash. You know, a lot of them are just using Fab or whatever, full of fragrances, full of synthetic fragrant molecules.
I use essential oils. Woohoo!
and fabric softener. Isn't that one of the worst things ever? Oh my God.
All those washes, you know, stain.
It's bad.
We use as much natural product that we can get our hands on our place, because all the water on our place stays on our place. And so we moved away from commercial grade stuff. Wherever we can find good, whether it's essential oils or the products that I use, which I won't be brand naming, their products work really well because they're all environmentally friendly, made from natural products as mostly as they can be. for what we do. And so, yeah, it's important. I think getting people to understand, like, sense of smell is so important. The reason I brought up the mask and the carbon dioxide is because several years ago, I nearly died from carbon monoxide poisoning in a vehicle. And I wasn't trying to do anything silly. I didn't have a pipe going from the car, just so people were very clear on that. But basically, I was in an off-road race in a river, up to the doors in water, and a car pulled up next to me with illegal exhaust and just filled my car with oxygen, or with carbon monoxide. And so I basically, by the time I got to a point where I realized I was in trouble, even though I was strapped in with a full harness and all the rest of it, I couldn't actually hold the steering wheel. That's how mentally impacted I got by that. And it only took, minutes, really. And I mean, I was in there for a while. And I say that because I get sick now. If I was to put on a mask to go into, for example, when my dad was in palliative care, a couple of times they wanted me to wear masks before I went in and all the rest of it. And it takes about probably 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden my eyes go red. I start feeling sick. Now, it's a brain trigger. So whether it's a physical, doesn't matter. It still triggers that I've got carbon monoxide in my system. And this is what it's doing. It brings back really negative memories. Now, as an ex-mechanic who's used to being around cars and tuning cars and all that sort of stuff, I can't even be around exhaust systems anymore. So the reason I say that for people wearing masks is a lot of them won't understand the negative impacts of bringing in their own carbon dioxide is, even in small amounts, it's going to be damaging your brain, and it's going to be damaging your physical body. And I just want to really make that clear that I'm speaking from personal experience. Where I got, when I got out of the car, they put me on oxygen when they eventually got me out of the river and put me on oxygen. And, imagine your worst ever hangover, times it by about 1,000, and you might come close to what a carbon monoxide headache does when you're detoxing that out of your system. So just really important for people to know that, because they just listen and just do it. So, Freya.
Well, I just think what you're saying is really relevant. And the other thing that Damian, I know, is fabulous with, and who I love to send people to, is with detoxing the physical body as well. And I think, so from two parts I'd like to reflect what you're saying, Anthony. Is one, I was bitten by a redback spider. So I've had the experience of my brain starting to shut down from poisoning from a neurotoxin, and then being in that observer perspective going, this is interesting. So this is what happens to a human brain when it is poisoned by a neurotoxin, as I'm struggling to be able to read things or do anything. When you have something as direct as that, which is injected into your body, be it through an animal or anything else, it's going to have that effect on your brain. The other perspective is a very simple thing, say doing a parasite cleanse, and how much of an effect the parasites that are existing in your organs and in your blood and in your brain and everywhere in your gut, are having on your consciousness. Because I think, Damian, it's probably about day 3 in my experience, the times that I've done it. There's this point where all of a sudden you feel like absolute crap because all of the bugs inside your system are dying. And you go through your own healing crisis. Emotion comes up. Your thoughts become maybe more scattered, or you feel just down. And then the next thing, once they die, and then your excretory system is taking them out, then you have this clarity in your mind, and you realize that things like, eat this sugar, or eat this bread, or eat this thing that isn't healthy for you, wasn't you at all. It was the bugs.
The bugs, very much so. They secrete chemicals into the body that make you crave alcohol, make you crave fatty foods, make you crave sugar. Yeah, they have a very unique way of making us eat what they want for dinner.
Well, you know, that's the symbiotic relationship between bugs and us, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
people
that's
don't think about the whole parasite thing. They think worms will worm our kids, will worm the dog. They don't realise that we're filled with the parasite.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, something that
and it's not
nobody's
just
told
the
about.
bugs. It's not just the bugs. Each organ that you cleanse, your whole being becomes different. You approach life differently. Your attitude is different, and it actually becomes easier because your thoughts are less interfered with. Becomes easier to make that time to go, okay, today, this weekend, I'm taking that half-hour drive up to the hills. I'm going into the pine trees. I'm doing some forest bathing, or I'm buying that diffuser and that essential oil, and I'm putting that screensaver on. You make time because your value systems change as your body changes.
Yes. Yep.
Absolutely. And some of the interesting work I've done in with businesses has been to use frequency and sound in the space to actually get people's bodies moving again. And so it's not just the screensaver. I mean, ideally, you know, I just had this vision when you were talking earlier, Damian, of a big wall of stuff, and then all these fruits, and you go up and you lick the fruit and you taste it, and you can smell stuff. You know, I was getting this like smell-o-vision. There's a whole other story behind that. I won't go there, but I sort of got that vision, and I could sort of see that happening into the future. That sound and the frequency is the sound and the frequency that we get in nature that comes from the consciousness that is all the plants, the flowers, the grasses, you know, the rocks, and everything that has that consciousness. And if we're walking into that space, we will feel more alive if we just take on that frequency, which I know you're going to talk about phones and things in a sec, but it's the negative frequency you get off your phones that's destroying the frequency and not allowing you to actually pick that up, which is, you know, all part of it. So I'd be interested, what are your thoughts on that frequency aspect?
Yeah, oh, big time. So, you know, when we're in the forest, there's many things going on. So let's look at it now. We've looked at one, you've got the nature, so you're seeing the surroundings. Then we've got the oxygen, so fresh, clean air, which we need. Then we've got these fragrant molecules, right? Influencing our physiology in certain ways, uplifting us, right? But then the frequency, exactly what you're talking about, Anthony, like what frequencies in nature? Well, I'll tell you one thing, when we go up into the hills up here to forest bathe, there is a lot less Wi-Fi. There's a lot less wireless technology going on up there. So that's the next thing I want to talk about is our horrible devices. Because exactly what Anthony's talking about, those frequencies coming off the devices, everything man-made, we've got this non-native EMF. You know, people say EMF comes off the sun. Okay, yeah, it does. But we're talking about non-native EMF that's not native to our environment, man-made EMF. Now, when you get in the forest, you can be sure there isn't a router sitting 10 meters away from you. There isn't a printer, a cell, you know, often they sneak a cell tower out there, but majority of the cell towers are in the city. So you're going up into this forest area, and now the frequency is shifting, because you've got the natural frequency of all the environment there, but you don't have the non-native frequencies smashing you all through your environment there, you know, in the nature place. So it's like I always say to people, turn your Wi-Fi, at the very least, turn your Wi-Fi off at night, you know, turn your phone onto flight mode as often as you can, you know, especially if you're walking out in nature or you're going to have some time out, put it on flight mode, turn it off. Allow that natural frequency, exactly what Anthony's talking about, to enter your body and influence you in a positive way. Because we've got these horrible devices doing it for us these days, and, you know, they are messing up the way we feel.
Yeah, I just want to point out too that when you put it in flight mode, all you're really doing is cutting out the availability of calls and messages coming in. It will still keep time. There's still going to be a frequency involved. So even if you turn your phone off, there's still a frequency in there. It's a computer. It's what it's doing.
And they're radioactive.
Yeah, exactly. So, I say to people, yes, put it in flight mode, and I'll put mine in flight mode when I'm meditating and have the phone away from me, and we don't sleep with them anywhere near what we do. But there are ways to counterbalance it. But just so people understand, if you put it in flight mode and you set your alarm clock will still go off at that time, so it's still working in the background.
Yes, that's right. And I think that's where people get scared off, is I've got to turn my phone off. It's like, yeah, it's okay. But like you say, if it's on flight mode, it's on standby, but it's not emitting those horrible frequencies.
I think too, the importance of having a phone, and this is the balance side of the argument. If you're going bush and you take a phone with you and something happens, you have the option of at least getting help faster than you would have 20 years ago when I used to go bush. We never had phones. I'd be relying, back in the day, I'd be bow hunting, which I don't do anymore, but I would use an arrow in the ground to work out my position for timing and where I needed to be and what direction the car was and all the rest of it. And, I got taught by an old fella, well, he wasn't too old back then, but old for me, about how to manage that so that I wouldn't ever get lost and I would always know where the car was. So the first 2 days of walking bush with him, he'd say, right, where's the car now? And I'd put in the ground, we've covered 4 valleys, we've done this, we've done that, and it's that direction.
Yeah.
So if something went wrong there, one of us would have to either walk out or get the person out. And we, I've had this discussion. I've spent a lot of time in the outback with, common sense safety stuff. So if you're wanting to go and really enjoy the experience, as long as somebody has a phone, you're pretty good. Yes. But not everyone has to carry it on and doesn't have to have it switched on.
Exactly. And you can go one step further, which is what I do at night. I put my phone into a pouch, an EMF pouch. So it's basically a little Faraday cage. Mm-hmm. So I know even off, there's nothing going on, because they can still track a phone that's turned off, for instance. So there's still able to communicate with a chip if they want to. But yeah, that's what I do, is go that next step, and I put it in this pouch, and it's like, now that thing ain't going to be singing out anything to me for the next hour. It's going to be.
And it's so, one of the most obvious things you can understand how that works these days is, you can have your phone. You may not live in a particular area, but let's say the police want to send out a message for a missing person. Right, which I get regularly these days, those messages, unfortunately. But I've had friends visiting who've been here for a couple of days, and because they've been here, they have also received the same text message for the missing person in this area, because their phone is being tracked by satellites, being communicated with all of the time. So, and they've had their phone off and all of that sort of thing. So it isn't, as Damian's saying, it's not just about having your phone off or your address or your number registered to a particular address. It's being communicated with all of the time.
And you watch,
therefore putting up frequencies. Yeah.
You just watch, and it's not conspiracy theory, that no doubt in the next 5 years, they will be tracking how fast you're traveling in your car on your phone, because your phone will be traveling and it will have an accurate GPS, and you'll get a text message that says you've been done for 10 kilometers over the speed limit. Oh, by the way, you've got no points left. You've got 12 hours to get back to your home, park your car. Otherwise, you will end up in jail for driving unregistered or unlicensed, blah, blah, blah. It's coming. So
I think it will be 5 years.
Let's not continue to solidify that into creation.
Cancel,
thanks,
clear, delete.
There's, I don't want it in creation. However, that tech is there, and that's what we're talking about. So let's just jump back to before we finish off with that understanding of utopian stuff. We talked about very briefly before we started the show on geoengineering, and we covered this in 2 issues ago in the magazine in the elephant in the room issue. And a lot of people were saying that it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. They can't do that. They can't control the weather and blah, blah, blah. Well, we know that to be the case. But geoengineering, they're putting a lot of stuff in our atmosphere, which means we're breathing that in.
Yeah.
Now, how do you allay people's, like, allay their fears, or how do we combat that? Like, you know, because that's all around us. It's a really hard one.
Yeah, for sure. I love this stuff. Let's go. So the biggest thing I do with the air is to drop the fear, because they're going to spray and they're going to spray. And if you're going to stand there and worry about that every minute of the day, it's going to kill you, right? What I focus on is how can I set my body up so that any contaminants that are absorbed into my system are safely removed without harming my system in any way? How do they enter and find a pathway out that's not going to upset me, stress my body in any way? How do I get them to gently leave my body? And that is my number one focus with what I do, you know, is how do we get stronger in a Wi-Fi environment so it's not affecting us? How do we get stronger in an environment where they're spraying metal particulates in the air? You know, instead of going, oh, those chemtrails. I mean, let's just focus on how do we get them out. And for any of those people that are non-believers, you can go to Harvard and Oxford and study to be a geoengineerist. So if that's the right title for that person. So anyone who's questioning it, just go check Harvard and Oxford out, and you can go study it. You can do a degree in it, you know. So it's
well, they have to use geoengineerist, because that planet killer is not really a good title for.
No, that's right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there was a it's interesting, you know. There was someone I met not long ago, and they were in a point where they were like, and they were studying engineering, and they were deciding what they were going to major in, and they were like, oh, you know, they were like, I could go down the road of doing mining stuff, or there's a lot more money in developing weaponry, like for the military, and I'm not sure which way to go. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And, you know, for me, and it's a massive namaste to everyone in the universe, because they're all on their journey and they're up to where they're up to. But when a person is like trying to decide whether they're going to harm the earth through mining, or be responsible, or to be enabling the murder of other people and trees and animals, etc., I'm like, and there's all these other types of engineering you could be working towards.
Yep.
You know, and then I'm making conscious decisions about, okay, this is not a person I need to have in my field.
Yeah, that's right.
As well.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting.
Choices people make are very interesting, and what they put themselves into. And again, as you say,
it's a bit like the mobile phone switched on. It's like, don't need that impacting my energy field or my body, right. You know, or consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah. And yet, you know, we can look at it all negatively and fear-based, and then we can also turn around and say that a lot of this technology is helping to save lives and helping to maybe build things better. We've just got to keep incorporating nature back into exactly everything we're doing, which really is what, Damian, you're all about, is just bringing that back in and understanding it better. You know, I think it's important. So really what we've done in that whole roundabout space too is come back to that, you know, finding utopia in a space within ourselves before we can actually impact our environments and our other areas and our other people. And so my sort of take on from what you've said, Damian, and what you were just saying then, Freya, is really it is about people's choices in their space. And if you can find a utopian understanding within yourself to be the best, healthiest person you can be, and that's what you're doing, Damian, is you're being that best person and spreading that around with your products, with your ability to talk it through, and your life experience, you know, because that's really what it boils down to. You know, you find that sense of who you are. That's what makes a difference.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think, you know, it's just supporting our body through this stress. You know, the world is a stress. And so it's like, how can we navigate through this world now? How do we build our resilience? How do we fortify our body so that it can stand strong in these times? You know, that's ultimately what I'm into.
Well, I've been hanging out with my crystal dreaming teacher for the last couple of weeks, doing some pretty wizard-like stuff, which has been pretty fabulous. But one of the things he said, and I feel like it's really pertinent to this situation here, and what Damian's saying is that it's like people like Damian and anyone who's doing something of real passion and, you know, aligned with this journey of self, is it's like we're like the SAS that have been dropped behind enemy lines, and we're on this mission.
We're on a mission
we uplift everyone. There's no killing involved. There's just reinvigorating life. Maybe that's the soulful SAS.
Well, you know, when you think what you were saying there, you know, and I know I said it with a little bit of Jeff, we're on a mission from God, and, you know, go Blues Brothers, because frequency sound my thing. We are God's spark. We are each and every one of us from that energetic being. So we're finding our own self, our own God spark, our own Christos energy, which allows us then to be exactly that. Our soul, all SAS. I'll have to work out an analogy for that. But yeah, that's what we are.
And what's so good about trees is, right, they don't need any help to work it out. They just are it. That's why they just put it all out for us to like sniff and work it out.
Yeah, that's right.
Sniff, touch, feel. Because, you know, we haven't even talked about touch and feel as part of that vibration and consciousness, because there's nothing I like more than, if I'm walking around my places, I talk to my plants and I will touch their leaves. You know, I have plants in the room that I talk to every morning when I wake up, and, you know, that sort of thing. So touch and feel, the tangible thing that makes us feel good, is also like the smell.
And then you smell your hands.
It's
going for the walk. I'm one that goes on my walks every day. I'm always a leaf toucher, pull a picker, and run my hand through everybody's leaves, and I'm always sniffing the leaves, and I've always done that. People probably hate me, but I do, and I love it when you can get a, you know, crunchy eucalyptus off the tree and have a smell along the way. But any trees or bushes, I tend to always walk and I actually slide my hand through. I love it.
On a conscious level, those plants and trees absolutely know that we're doing it from a good space. Yeah. And so I think that it helps.
Well, we're related to the trees, aren't we? In our makeup, our matter, the very matter that we are, they are our kin, our relatives, the trees.
Yeah,
crystals.
People don't realise that.
I know we're getting tight for time, and however, I'm really interested in prior to us going live, Shirley, you got Damian's birth date, so I'd love to hear his dream spell numbers.
Yes.
Speak to.
Well, it's got lots of 8 energy within his birthday, which is all about health and healing. It's the bigger picture. It's the large project that is infinite in possibility and abundant energy. So you're really made for what you're doing. Your dream spell kin, the vibration and frequency that you are as a human, which is everything else, and we'll just call it a human. I'm walking this earth path at the moment. You are white rhythmic wind, which I love. It's part of my own clan, but the rhythmic tone of equality, which is the 6th tone, and it's about equality in everything, finding, building up, you know. And the wind is the communicator. So you're communicating in everything you do as well. It's huge communication. So as white rhythmic wind, I organise in order to communicate, balancing breath. I seal the input of spirit with the rhythmic tone of equality, and I'm guided by my own power double. Because you're of the 6th rhythmic tone, you are guided by your own energy, your thoughts, your lessons and blessings, and your errors, your successes it is your way, and that is how you develop and find out, which is why your journey healing from that fatigue was such a big process. When you said 8 years, I thought people will go, oh God, I'm not doing that. That's too much.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's long. I can't be bothered. But that's part of your journey because it was so big. 8 years, you said, there's another 8, to get through in order to discover not just your way, but the way, which gives opportunity and possibility to all others.
Yes.
Puts it out there. And so you're guided by your own self in that direction. You have the red earth kin, the rhythmic earth as your like mind. That's your very footstep. The navigation and the synchronicity is the very footstep that is your like mind and support system, and literally the earth. Your analog, your challenge, your antipode and challenge, which challenges you, brings you lessons, is the yellow human, which in its higher form is the sage, the wise person. You become wise, you understand. We have to develop in order to get there. So human is taking you. You've had to be so human in your journey, human from base roots up in your journey. You can't get to a bigger picture and do all these things without having the base roots in the earth. And so the inner power, the occult within you is moi, blue hand. That is about accomplishment and connection. So you've got, how can I accomplish this? How can I connect? How can I bring this together? How does this work in conjunction with this? All those things guided in the oracle around the things I've just said, as you as the white wind, which is the breath of spirit coming in from, through, to. So that's who you are, which is 162. And number 162 in the calendar. So that is your kin. And rhythm, rhythm. We're in rhythm. We've got to be in rhythm with the earth. We've got to be in rhythm with ourselves, rhythm with everybody, rhythm with our heart. To be in rhythm brings up it's not like equality as though we're all the same, because we're not. We're so diverse and different. We've got different origins. But an equality is opportunity, and it's all here for everyone to utilize. And I understand and share that point of view. That's you.
Thank you.
That's
really
who you're
good.
born. And we shift through other days as we go along. But yeah,
powerful.
it
Thank
fits totally.
Yeah, excellent.
That's actually that just makes so much sense when we see it. Now we're getting to the end of this show, and we have, for our listeners out there, we're conning Damian into writing a story for the next issue of the magazine. So we'll have a bit more about Damian's thoughts in detail on paper about forest bathing, not so much his journey, because we're covering that in this video, which has been great. So thank you for doing that, Damian. Really appreciate your time today. I know Freya's going to jump out in a couple of minutes, and so just wanted to say thank you for joining us, Freya. I know you had a few tech issues at the start, but as always, great to see you. And
likewise, all of you.
So and thanks for connecting us, Freya.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I've been wishing for you to be connected in this zone for some time, so I'm like, yay, we found the entry point. So before I jet, Damian, if people would like to find out more about forest bathing, your journey and what you do, how can they do that, please?
So my website is superhealth.com.au. So that's where I sell a lot of my health products. I've got recipes and lifestyle sort of things going on there. You can check me out on Facebook. It's probably the best one for all the forest bathing like things. So Damian Donoghue on Facebook, just add me on my private profile there. That'd be probably the top two. And Instagram, the other one. I've got Medical Cannabis Oz, OZ. So that's just at Medical Cannabis Oz. And that's a lot of my lifestyle like stuff as well. So
yeah. And we'll make sure that information's available to read.
And I've been browsing through a lot of stuff as we've been here. I've got my computer up on the other side, and I feel like part of it is about the simplicity and things, because there's so much out there. It's very confusing.
Oh, very
so much. To make it tangible, some easy keys and things like that. It's, I think, well done from what I've been looking at as we've been browsing.
Thank you.
I
And
intend
just
to go
to touch
further.
on, Shirley, when you mentioned 8 years, just for people who are listening,
Mm.
it took me 8 years to reverse my dis-ease,
Mhm.
but it doesn't have to take you that
No,
long.
that was
I
your
knew-
journey so that you can share it
Yes, I
and
had
build it and
no idea
create it.
what I was doing. You know, I was a total fresh started at all this, and then it was like, learn, now share.
Yeah, a beautiful
You
message. You know,
remembered. That had to activate within you the memory of what you came here, which you already knew, which you were to do and share.
Yes.
And so looking at your birthday, you're born on the 26th. Can I share that? I have. The 26th is about compassion, the heart, the intuition, the whole energy for the people.
Got
And
you.
that comes to an 8 itself for humanity. So it's the humanitarian process, and how we get there is the journey through the human being the sage, walking this earth, following my path with this inner feeling of I want to accomplish, I want to connect, I want to do. That's the blue hand energy. And so then your life path is an 8. From your birthday, your life path is an 8. You've got the 8 there. And you've got a good couple of 11s, which is illuminating and strength and supportive. And this year, I'll say you personally in numerology are in a completion stage, ready to start again over the next 12 months. So I'm sure there's things that need to be released, put aside, because there's new stuff coming in. So that's where you're in the crux of that at the moment. I think it'll be very exciting. And I do suggest that people follow your journey. And I think they'll get a lot out of it because you've done it. Not everybody can have a journey and then start creating it.
Yeah.
So it's there for a reason. It's very purposeful. I feel that very, very strongly.
Oh, thank you, Shirley. I appreciate it.
Can I share a card that for you?
Just quickly.
I think
Yep.
I drew this, I shuffled at the beginning, and it's on my funny background.
You're going to just have to read it, I think,
So
Shirley.
that's the picture.
Mhm.
Very red earth. To begin the practice of allowing, I must get out of the way and let spirit give me direction. And that is the epitome of your journey.
Yes.
Following yourself because you're guided there. Oh, I'll let all go and I have to go. It doesn't matter who's saying this way, that way, pushing
Yes.
way. You had to get out of the way and let spirit push that journey through.
Right.
On your
Thank
own.
you, Shirley. I appreciate that.
Pleasure.
No, that's great. Well, look, we do have to wrap it up, Damian and Shirley. Damian, thank you very much for your time. It's actually been very enlightening and a really fun. I just can't believe how quickly the time went.
I know it did.
It's just zoomed by. But look, for readers and listeners out there, Damian's story, we'll cover that in the next issue of the magazine, issue number 42, about finding utopia on Earth. And we'll make sure there are links to your sites and bits and pieces. I'll get all that info for our readers later as well. So thank you very much, Damian, and thank you very much, Shirley. It's been lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Ciao.
Anthony. Thanks, Shirley.
And just remember, www.supernalmagazineaustralia.com.au. It's free. And you can just get online. You can see all our back issues, listen to our podcasts, see all the videos we've done, and there are a lot of them. So enjoy, listeners. Have a supernal month.